A very good morning, participants, and a hearty welcome to our resource person, Dr. Rufus. We will wait for a few more participants to join the session.
Shall we start?
Yes, ma'am, let the participants join. We can start the session.
Yeah, good
A
morning,
hearty
everyone.
welcome to all the participants today too. Now I invite my co-organizer, Dr. Hasina Naji, to introduce our resource person, Dr. Samuel Rufus. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I hope you had a fantastic start to our FDP. Welcome to day 2. We are really thrilled to continue this journey of exploration and learning together. Before we delve into today's sessions, let's quickly recap yesterday's highlights. We explored creative teaching methods, effective classroom engagement techniques, and learned valuable insights into assessment and ethics of research handled by Dr. Jayanti and Dr. Joseph Doreraj. It was a day filled with knowledge sharing and collaborative discussions. And now let's look forward to today's agenda. In our morning session from 10 to 11:30 a.m., we have a session titled Textual Materiality and the Teaching Machine, Recent Trends and Trajectories by Dr. Samuel Rufus, Associate Professor of English and Associate Dean of Student Affairs at Madras Christian College, Chennai. Following that, in the afternoon session from 1:30 to 3 p.m., we are honored to have another session on performing the English classroom by Dr. M. David Wesley, Assistant Professor of English at the Madras Christian College, Chennai. Remember, active participation is the key. Feel free to ask questions, share your thoughts, and make the most of these valuable sessions. Also, a quick reminder that the WhatsApp group link and feedback form will be shared in the chat box. Your feedback is invaluable to us, and so please take a moment to fill out the feedback form at the end of each session. Without further delay, let's dive into today's enlightening sessions. It is my honor to introduce our distinguished speaker for the morning session, Dr. S. Samuel Rufus. With a rich academic journey spanning 21 years, Dr. Rufus currently serves as an associate professor in the PG and Research Department of English at Madras Christian College, Chennai. Dr. Rufus commenced his illustrious career as a lecturer at the American College, Madurai in 2002. Since 2003, he has been an integral part of MCC, where he now holds the position of associate professor and also serves as Associate Dean of Student Affairs. His areas of expertise encompass a diverse range, including post-colonial studies, bioregional studies, literary theory and criticism, and digital humanities. Today, Dr. Samuel Rufus will be sharing his insights in the session titled Textual Materiality and the Teaching Machine, Recent Trends and Trajectories. Please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Dr. Samuel Rufus as we eagerly anticipate gaining valuable insights into the evolving landscape of education through his extensive expertise. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Rufus. Sir?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for that introduction. Shall I share my screen now?
Please, sir, please.
Yes. So, is it
Yeah,
visible?
it's visible. Yes, yes.
Right. Okay, ma'am. So, very good morning, dear participants of this wonderful FDP organized by the Department of English, VIT Chennai. Without much ado, let me go into the text at hand. The title or the topic that I have chosen this morning is Textual Materiality and the Teaching Machine. What is textual materiality? Most of us, as practitioners of literature, would have known this term, the materiality of the text, which was made popular in the 20th century by the neo-critics, the practical critics, the formalists, and others. The textuality of the text. And what is the materiality of the text? These two words, and then the teaching machine. This is how I have divided this brief talk. So, I'll just give you this slide, which tells us something about how textuality is something that which constitutes a text as a text in a particular way. So a text can be constituted through mobile phone, through your book, through your email, through your apps, through your Kindle. So what constitutes a text? We are in this digital era where almost every one of us has been, it has been made mandatory for us to embrace technology. So this talk would give us some directions in that aspect. This is the term that is currently popular. We all know that multimodality of the text. A text has not monomodality or unimodality, but multimodality, which the word was coined by the New London Group, which is a group of scholars from across Europe who met in London to improve classroom teaching. So like the new learning that happened in the 1490s or 1500s in England, the same way a new London group from all over the world, they came together and they wanted to improve classroom teaching method using technology. And that is the reason the word multimodality was born or coined by this particular group. And it also has something to do with multi-literacies. The second point there, they coined the term multimodality when they discussed the changing way of communication due to the advent of new technologies. Right. So see the last line there, the point there, they claimed that very soon the screen will govern all our communication practices. I think it was the year 96 or 97 when Bill Gates wrote that wonderful book, Business at the Speed of Thought. He and his friend, when they wrote this book, they told us something very, very shocking. They said, in the future, the screen will govern all our transactions. The screen will govern all our relationships. So when he said it in the year 96 or 97, people were not convinced. He talked about a device called a convergence. And what is this convergence? He said, at the click of a button, he didn't use the word thumb, but he said, as a click of a button, you can order anything you want, you can do anything you want, you can transact money, you can transact business. This was in the year 1996. But it took 10 years or so for it to come to fruition or completion. Today, almost everything we do on the screen. That's what they say. They claim that very soon the screen will govern all our communication processes. Now, this is something that we all know, Roman Jakobson's 6 functions of language. This is very interesting because when we start theory, we foreground this particular chart to our students, isn't it? So this chart, it has 6 components there. First, it begins with the context, then the sender, message, receiver, the medium, and the code. Now, I want you to carefully observe the word message at the middle of this chart. The word message connects with the textual materiality of the text. Now, there was Roman Jakobson who told us that for the message to be successfully conveyed, for communication to be a success, that's why he calls it 6 functions of language. For communication to be a success, for the message to be successfully delivered, we need all these 6 components. First, we need a message, you need a sender, you need a context, you need a receiver, you need a medium, and you also need a code. Without either of these or without any of these, he says communication will not be a success. Just imagine I am in this particular room and I want to communicate something to my colleague outside. So I tell him the message, bring me a cup of coffee. When I tell him, bring me a cup of coffee, I use a medium. It could be a cell phone like this, a medium, or it could be an email. I use a medium to communicate the message. Without a medium, I can never communicate the message. And there should be a receiver also for the message to be properly and successfully communicated. And both of us should understand the same language or the same code. Without the, if he knows only French and I know only English, communication will not be a success at all. So all these 6 together make up communication. But almost at the same point of time in the year 1964, there came up another media theorist, a very popular media theorist, who told us something very shocking. He told us that medium and the message, they are one and the same. Shocking, right? So he says the medium is the message. I'll go to the next slide. 1964, this is the title of the book, Understanding Media, The Extensions of Man. Look at the subtitle, The Extensions of Man. He says the medium is the message. This was something very shocking some 50 years ago when Marshall McLuhan said it. No one could understand the importance of what this prophet was trying to tell us. What does he mean by medium is the message? Now I'll give you an example. This is a book. This is the medium. The message is also there. The message is there in this book. This is a wonderful book that I've been reading of late. The message is there. The medium is the printed version of the book. Now, he says the message is not important. It is the medium that conveys the message that is more important. So, see the radical shift in what Roman Jakobson told us in the previous slide. Roman Jakobson tells us that medium and the message are different. All 6 are needed. But here's a guy who comes up almost at the same point of time and he tells us the message is important, but more important is the medium that conveys the message. Today, how true it has proved, no? The message, when I convey it through WhatsApp, the medium, it reaches them easily. It is conveyed easily. The medium, Instagram, or social media like Facebook, or other, multimedia that we have. So the medium is important. I can tell a story to a group of children. They might be receptive, but if you tell it through, that's what we call textual materiality. The materiality of the text. The materiality means not necessarily the book, how it is presented to us, how meaning is made through the materiality need not necessarily be the print form. This could be the materiality, or anything else could be the email could be a materiality. So the materiality is the form that gives meaning to a particular text, and the meaning to be completely absorbed by the listener or the reader. That is why This statement by Marshall McLuhan assumes a lot of significance for us. The medium is the message. So I'll just give you a simple example. This is a, for better use, I'll show this like this. This is a phone that I was using in the year 2007. This is a Nokia phone, and it's an old phone. I still have it for sake of memory, nostalgia. 2006 or 7, Facebook came up. You'll see a small button here called F, no? Facebook came up. So I can't use this medium to communicate the message today. I hope you understand that. I can't use this medium, an outdated medium, to convey the message today. I need an upgraded or an updated medium to convey the message better. So the meaning, the ultimate aim of communication that Roman Jakobson tells us is, back to the screen. Roman Jakobson tells us is to reach the audience, to reach the reader, the recipient. And the mode that I use or the medium that I use becomes important and significant also. So this is the famous line that he says. Marshall McLuhan proposes that a communication medium itself and not the message it carries should be the primary focus of study. And that is why the textual materiality of the text in the multimodal platform, multimodality we call it. We live in a multimodal universe today. So yes, this is the light bulb theory that he gave us. A light bulb is a medium that creates a social effect just by its mere presence. Just imagine, no, without your cell phone, without a cell phone, can we be there for at least 5 hours or 6 hours? Digital detox, we call it, no? Can we be there for at least 6 hours without the cell phones? Because the medium has a social effect. That is what he calls the light bulb. The light bulb, by its mere presence, it creates a social effect. And the same applies to all the multimodal devices that we have today, he says. Go to the, yeah. So this is the old media and the new media divide that we all know, but just a foregrounding to that before we go ahead. The old media includes television, movies, magazines, and books. In the sense, they are all, we call them outdated today. The new media includes all forms of electronic communication, the internet, websites, computer games, blogs, podcasts, to name a few. So just as how we need a pencil to compose on a paper, digital tools are needed to compose in the new media. We know that. So this is the limitation of paper-based dissemination. How it is expensive to purchase, difficult to transport. The distribution is very expensive because of the postage costs, restrictions, etc. Now the question is, how many of us still go back to this outmoded paper-based dissemination of information alone? Do we still go back to the paper-based mode of dissemination alone when it comes to textual strategies and teaching strategies in the classroom? I can't use an outmoded method of teaching to create an impact in my learner today. I need to upgrade myself. I need to update myself to the new technology at hand so that let's be honest with ourselves, even we as teachers, most of us use the digital sphere for downloading books. When a Nobel laureate is announced, the next moment, the people in the group tell us is, sir, can you give me the latest book published by this author? Or can you give me the PDF copy, the PDF version of this book? This is how we are. And the kids today, they are all very, very, updated and upgraded. It is indispensable for them without their devices. But John Dewey uses this wonderful statement. What I know is different from what the learner needs. What I know the method of teaching that I know is completely different from what the learner today needs. So I should not push whatever I know from my own outdated methods of teaching and learning. Today, we all know that a teacher is no more a teacher. She is called a facilitator of knowledge, just a communicator of knowledge to happen between knowledge and the learner. So we are just facilitators because we have everything there on the World Wide Web. Australia, a few schools had started it even 10 years ago. They said we are not going to give rote learning or memorization to our kids in school because everything is there on Google. Why should we, trouble our students by making them memorize or by heart things? Simple. We will give you Google. We'll give you all Alta Vista, Mama.com, Yahoo.com, Google.com, all the search engines. We'll give it to you. Make use of them and come out with the most creative answer that you possibly can. See, 10 years ago it came. Now we have ChatGPT, AI, and other forms of crisis that questions the concept of creativity today. We'll come back to that. So, yeah, this was the byline by Microsoft in the year 1994. Where do you want to go today? When Microsoft just started, this was the byline they gave to their logo. That means they want us to be transported to another place or another world. Now look at this. Explorer, they call it. From one place, you are transferred. During the pandemic, we all did that. How we were transported from one place to another. We connected with the students from all across the state or across states also. Explorer, navigator, which failed actually. But the word navigation again, like see the structure there, or like going in the sea. And this is exactly what we mean by multimodality of the text. The reporter there could have just spelled out what the weather is like, but see how she uses multimodality as a strategy to connect the medium, right? That's what I've given them within brackets. A televised weather forecast involves multimodality. So communication becomes better when it is enhanced in the multimodal way. That's what advocates of the digital platform say. So this is something that we all know. Work to text. You should read this book by John Sutherland, where he tells us about how the text has its own identity. A work becomes an author's individual property. That's why they say don't use the word work. They say use the word text, because a text becomes critical. I can analyze a text as a critical tool. But a work is obviously a property of an author, like the child of a mother. But Obama as the child of a mother is different. Obama as the president of the United States is different. So the same here, work to a text. A whole lot of range of textualities are there. Look at that. Julia Kristeva gives us intertextuality. For example, Plato's Republic, how it influenced Thomas More's Utopia 1516, and then New Atlantis later, and then a host of other works. Intertextuality. Then you have paratextuality. Paratextuality means something that comes extraneous, we call it. The blurb to the book is paratextuality. The font, the cover design, the vibrant cover design is part of paratextuality. Para means that which comes along with the text. Who wrote the preface to the book is paratextuality, something that comes along with the text. Then subtext, we all know that. Submerged countercurrents or undercurrents repressed within the text. Contextuality. Now I'll give you the most important word here, the word hypertext. 1964, Ted Nelson. Yeah. This is sourced from Wikipedia just to tell us how all these texts differ from the hypertext, because the hypertext is non-linear in its content. Non-linear in the sense, when I browse through the first line here, the Cricket World Cup, officially known as ICC Men's Cricket World Cup, then something is there. Then you have the word International Championship. When I click here, it takes me to another page. So after that, I come back. Then I click here. It takes me to another page. Hypertext Transfer Protocol, HTTP we call it. No? So this world of hypertext, the question is, so where is meaning in the text? Wherein resides meaning in the text? Is it there on the page, or is it there across pages? And this is the first time we had a crisis when it comes to linearity in understanding the complexities of a text. So Ted Nelson gave us this term, and it was popularized later. We had the first work of hypertext fiction coming up in 1995, and then a whole range of hypertext devices also coming up. Yeah. This is Oulipo. Oulipo means Workshop for Potential Literature, a group of writers and mathematicians in France in 1960. They came together and they used this formula, n+7. So they will take a poem already in existence and substitute each of the poems substantial nouns, and to such an extent that they will have 10 poems, and in 10 different orders you make it, it will give you billions of possibilities. It generates poems. Now comes the question. It generates thousands of poems, millions of poems, billions actually here. Now the question is, till at least the last century, we thought creativity is the domain proper of human beings. I repeat, we thought that creativity is the exclusive domain of human beings. So anything else you want to do, thinking, the other parts you can do, intelligence, AI is there, but creativity is the domain that only human beings can master. We all know the definition for creativity: something that is new, something that has value, something that is new, something that has value also. Just because it is new, if it doesn't have value, it will not be of use, right? So creativity means something that is new, original, something that is value, something that will make a difference to society. Now, just imagine creativity taken over by the machines, by the algorithms. And that is what has happened in the year 2020 when a person, he wrote a book called The Creativity Code. Creativity can be coded. So I use a particular code to come out with something creative. This was a shocker because like in the 1990s, when Deep Blue computer, IBM machine, IBM's Deep Blue, it competed with the Russian champion, chess champion, Garry Kasparov, man versus machine. So that was intelligence, this was thinking and creativity here. But finally, the machine won. They said, the downfall of human beings started when you had this human versus machine conflict. In the 21st century, the crisis before us is this coding of creativity, the last domain that was exclusive for human beings that we thought no one else could imitate was coded. That means I want to draw a painting, I just give a particular code, the computer generates a painting for me. I want to write a short story, I just have to give the names I want. Then the stages of the short story, premise, development, then complication, then the climax or the denouement. It does everything for me. So this is where it started in the 1960s, how there was an artificial generation of these poems. Yes, coming back. This is the title of the book that was written by the poet Raymond Queneau, 100,000 billion poems. That's the title. The book contains a set of just 10 sonnets printed on cards with each line on a separate strip. As all 10 sonnets have the same rhyme scheme and the same rhyme sounds, any line from a sonnet can be combined with any from the 9 others, allowing for 10 to the power of 14. So different 100,000 billion poems. This, they say, experts say, it will require more than one's lifetime to read through all those poems. Even if you read at a slow, gentle pace, it will require more than one's lifetime to read through all these poems, they say. So how hypertext transformed the way creativity is and the way we approach a text. So this is one of the first works of hypertext fiction, The Patchwork Girl. Most of us would have known that, by the American author Shelley Jackson. You can, if you, that's why I've given a screenshot of the page. If you go to eastgate.com, you can see how the work is in patches, 5 patches, and then you'll have to arrange it. It's very interesting. You will have to do the arranging part, and then you have your own version of a hypertext fiction. So the story is not linear as we find it in a book. This medium, the medium that was that is considered outdated today. So, but I really, love the book form because it gives me some freedom. So, yes, this is the question. This is a book actually I had bought in the British Council. Usually every year they give their old books for a discounted price. So I got it from British Council when they gave this offer. This was a wonderful book that I got because in this book titled In the Mind of the Machine, this I'll contrast it with the teaching machine also. Kevin Warwick, in this book, he says, I believe that in the next 10 to 20 years, some machines will become more intelligent than humans, predicting a life of slavery for humankind in the near future. Some machines will become more intelligent than humans. He said this way back. Now, look at what has happened. This book, this was in the year 2001 or 2, if I'm right. Look at this. This happened in 2020 because I was there when this book was released at the Times of India Book Fair, Literature Festival in Mumbai. Marcus Desatoy was there. So when he released this book, it was a shocker because he challenged the audience who were assembled. See, in this particular book, he says, in the Creativity Code, there is one particular paragraph that is written that was written by the machine, not me. I challenge you to find it out, he says. If you find it out, I'll give you a prize, he says. It's very difficult to find out who wrote what. Who wrote the human wrote what and the machine wrote what. So this is what he says. To Marcus Desatoy, creativity has for long been the domain proper of human endeavor. To him, creativity is to come up with something new and something that has value. Right? The second one is new, surprising, and that has value. Now, he says he has cracked the creativity code within humans, copying it on to computers to make them paint, draw, cartoon, compose music, write poetry, short stories, novels, as much as humans do. That is something path breaking as far as the word creativity is concerned. So this is the reason why multimodal teaching becomes relevant in the classroom, be it the language classroom or be it the literature classroom or any classroom for that matter. Why multimodal teaching becomes effective? When you convey anything through WhatsApp, immediately the student is reached through the message and immediately the student responds back. Even among teachers, we have groups where we communicate messages through these media, not the regular media, putting a notice up in the college where I work. We have stopped, paper-based communication for the past 3 years. All communication we have, I think most of the colleges and universities do that. We have stopped paper-based communication. Everything goes to us or reaches us only via email or via WhatsApp, official WhatsApp groups. So why do we leave teaching out of the multimodal platform? And how can we use multimodality as an effective tool or a resource in the teaching method? Uh, the main reason why we use the multimodal method or approach to teaching is because of the potential to boost students' engagement. We all know how the attention span of the student is decreasing every passing day. Previously, 20 years ago, it was said that a student's concentration span is just 20 minutes. Now they say it is less than a minute. The Instagram reels, 1 minute, 2 minute reels. So their concentration span for a particular story or any particular thing that they see is very less today. In this particular scenario, how do we engage with the learners? How can we create an impact among the learners through the recent strategies or the recent trends that have come up in teaching? And how important are they? The text is lifted from the printed page and explored in multimodal ways, encouraging students to get inside the text and play with the text. So let's see how it is done. This is the popular definition for the term textuality. Textuality is often taught in linguistic terms alone. However, a multimodal perspective on textuality examines how image, color, gesture, typography, as well as writing and speech shapes the learning process. So all these things together make up the learning process, not one way. They say even in a business, it is a transaction, two-way. The customer gives the money and the shopkeeper, it is a transaction that involves two. Neither of them is a passive recipient. There is a transaction involved. So in the multimodal field, you find learning is shaped through a variety of contexts. Let's see them. Yes, this is why we go from monomodal to multimodal, because multimodality looks upon language as simply one of several modes through which communication and learning are done. This heralds the leap from traditional literacies to techno literacies. That is the future of learning today. Techno literacies, we call it. Okay. 20. Yeah. So emotional branding in advertisements. We all know how they call it pseudo advertisements also, but emotional branding is done. Why? In order to reach customer better with the appeal needed. The same applies to the teaching methods that we use in classroom also. So since emotional branding involves selling of emotions, corporations want everything the brand does to be packed with emotion, personality, and experience that the customer will feel and never forget. The experience that we give to the learner, for example, in the classroom, involving them in the process, makes it all the more memorable for them. So a very good example of Amul's advertisements, they don't necessarily advertise Amul products at all. If you see all the Amul advertisements, they will never advertise this or this particular product, ghee or butter or lassi or buttermilk or whatever. They don't, but they use this kind of advertisement, which is called emotional branding and advertisement, to touch the heart of their audience. And this is what multimodality does to learning also. An example of the materiality of electronic learning. See how the word layers, this is a kind of a poem by Stanley Kunitz. See how the word layers is given an electronic perspective here, And this is what we call multimodality. Now the word layers and the poem will be unforgettable for the learner in today's era. For us, it was different. This is just a strategy they use to make the student involved in the learning process. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I'm not who I was. So I keep changing. I'm not the same. And I'm not who I was, though some principle of being abides, from which I struggle not to stray. And this is another poem of kinetic topography, we call it. Sorry. Once upon a time, you were just so fine. See the impact of the visual on the text. The impact of the visual on the particular text that is given here. Once upon a time, you were just so fine. Your dreams were pure, your hopes were divine. Your path was never out of line. Everything was perfect in your prime. Now, your time has changed and life has taken a different bend. Nothing goes well as you always pretend. The past you are unable to defend. It feels like it's chasing you in a maze that has no end. Twist. You are no more the same. You are different now. So this is an example that I also given in my class for the students, teaching visual literacy through film. Look at this. This is actually a painting. This is actually a painting by John William Waterhouse. It depicts one of the most tragic moments in The Tempest, where we'll see the shipwreck happening. So here you can't see Miranda's face, only a side view you can see, but still you can kind of sense or feel the sorrow that she feels. And she holds her hand, to her heart to express the pain and the angst and the despair she's suffering at the loss of life. Now, this one visual, how the student creates, learning for themselves, himself or herself. See how it happens. See the line from Tempest, the cry did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. That's why she keeps a hand to her heart. And this is the immortal line. The cry did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. And see how it comes here in the visual. Oh, I have suffered with those that I saw suffer. A brave vessel who had no doubt some noble creature in her, dashed all to pieces. Oh, the cry did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. What we do in our classes is we directly teach them the text without the aid of these multimodal strategies. But they say a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, right? An image that we give them is more than 1,000 words. So one picture that connects with the theme of the poem and that can help them visualize has more power. And the student, if you give them a poem, for example, in class, Paradise Lost, she plucked, she ate, earth felt the wound, any poem for that matter, right? Ask them to do it in a multimodal way. And you'll find the student engages with the poem better. And learning is also enhanced in the process. Like how here you find one picture is able to bring out the feel that Shakespeare endowed in those particular 3 lines. The cry did knock against my very heart. Poor souls, they perished. And see how the student beautifully brings Miranda there after showing us the waves, the tempest, and the moment of shock there that has happened, the accident that is there, and then slowly her uh, her present feel that he has. Right. This is what we call alt text. This is especially helpful in today's because visually challenged learners find multimodality a very helpful platform for them. So you'll find here, we call it alt text, a small square shaped a picture like broken picture like image you find there at the bottom. If you click that, you'll find the definition for the picture there. 7 full coffee cups on wooden table. So this alt text helps ensure that the visual content is accessible to all the users, regardless of the visual ability, in an alternative text-based format. And that is the power. Sometimes we can't make the visually challenged see a particular thing, but you can make them understand it through the example of alt text. So here also again an example of alt text. It displays on the page if the image fails to load, the missing image. Sometimes, some pages they fail to load. So it is proper to give a line there as alt text, alternative text. Tourists posing for pictures while touching the foot of the John Harvard statue. So the responsibility of the teacher in generating interest of the student, developing students' use of multi-literacies in the composition and comprehension of text in computer-based and conventional formats. So how do you reach today's adolescents through the teaching process? Because we are not adept, skilled in the recent trends and technologies. But today's student is very much upgraded, upskilled in the recent technologies and trends. They know more than what we do, maybe 20 years or 30 years ago, what we did, they know much ahead of us. They will want to give us information regarding a particular text or whatever. So this is what he says, Alverman. Reaching and teaching adolescents in currently changing times will require a healthy respect for their past, present, and future. But most of the time, we are concerned only about their present literacies or the past that we were taught, the literacies, the chalk and talk method. How many of us use those integrative tools when we connect with the learners in class? How many assignments that we give them for the past 4 years? If I could tell you this, all the assignments that I gave my students in class were always based on the multimodal platform. So I found out that instead of presenting a paper in class, when I asked them to do a creative video of the same, they come out so efficiently. There are students who got thousands of followers now. I asked them, develop a YouTube channel, give it a captivating name. So then a captivating name that can capture the attention of the viewer, and then post content in it that is original, that is unique, that is surprising, that has value. So every year they do that. For the past 4 or 5 years, I've asked them. After blended learning became popular, now we don't necessarily ask students. When we asked them to do this, I found a student had sent me a video by WhatsApp. I was stunned. I told her, please upload this on YouTube. Others will be influenced and impacted. The way the soliloquy of Hamlet so beautifully presented in the multimodal platform. So that this is what we call hypermedia rather than multimedia. Multimedia means it doesn't take you to another link, but hypermedia, it takes you to another link like hypertext does. No, non-linearity is there. There you can click something, it will take you to another place. Almost the same, but it takes you to another link. Right. This is the challenge to change in front of us today. In order to construct knowledge in today's world, students must be fluent with the multimodal text. Bennett et al. Postulate that education may be under challenge to change in order to meet the needs of digital natives. We are not digital natives. We are digital immigrants in the sense we have come there by force or, because of the need, but for them, they are digital natives. I can't use a past method to address the needs of the present learner. I repeat, I can't use a past method or a past methodology to address, like, for example, I'm trying to teach my student using this cell phone is outdated and outmoded. I can't use that. So there is a great challenge in front of us as educationists to meet the needs of the digital natives. Hughes maintains that ignoring this phenomenon in our classrooms would be a mistake. So let us ask ourselves, how many of us give tasks that connect with multimodality in the classroom? For example, asking them to work on some creative videos, even for the presentations. Can you do a presentation using the multimodal platform and give it to me? Just make it 5 minutes. Use the KISS. Keep it short and simple format. Use the the three-tier formula: the beginning, the middle, and the end. Give it a beautiful introduction, then the body, then the conclusion. Can you give it within 5 minutes for me? The moment we give them this challenge, that is the moment the student becomes very enthused. She feels that her creativity as a digital native is unplugged now. So, she's literally unplugged now. She can go on and on and on and make you wonder. Now, you and I, we become co-creators of meaning along with the kid, along with the student. So that is why Hughes says, ignoring this phenomenon of the need to change and address digital natives, we run the risk of losing touch, and school may become boring and irrelevant for students as a result. So the textual materiality of the text assumes a new form, a new version, a new text when it is accompanied by those visual images. The notion of multimodality redefines pedagogy because learning itself is reconceptualized, partly because of the impact of new technologies. So in the classroom, I've heard and I've listened to Dr. Preeti Srinivasan, head of the Department of English, Queen Mary's College, do this very often in our classrooms, even 10 years ago. And for the past 5 or 6 years, we have been doing it in our classrooms also. Poems uh, with accompanied by music, how it has a different feel for the learner. Geetanjali, when we teach Geetanjali, Tagore's Geetanjali, what we do is, I tried this out once in my class and it was a great success. I gave all the students in class, ice cream, and then I closed the doors and the windows. Then I played Geetanjali, a rendering of Geetanjali, and I just wanted them to listen for 45 minutes. So they all listened to Geetanjali, just the oral, the visual part of it, and they have to just eat ice cream on them. That's it. Nothing else for 45 minutes. And the more they were able to enjoy the feel of the music, the more they were able to take in the message of Gitanjali. So there are numerous strings in your lute. Let me be one among them and sing your praise all day. Some of the songs in the Gitanjali, the strings, when they merge with the text, I mean the music, when it merges with the text, it becomes a new text, and learning becomes enhanced for the learner. And that way, we will do justice. So something that we do in class, right? I've been doing in class. Most of us, Dr. Phoebe Angus in my department, Dr. David Wesley. Dr. David Wesley, who's going to talk to you next at 1:30, he uses performance, acting out, another brilliant way of connecting with the learner today. So students can be given audio recordings of poetry. Students may be asked to produce their own recordings by means of digital technology, which helps make the whole process more powerful and accessible. I've seen students, hundreds of YouTube channels they have created over the past 1 or 2 years, hundreds of channels. And I tell them, when I ask them to talk about feminism as part of their project, you know what I ask them to do? Just interview people. So they become a news reporter in the process. They become so excited. Now I can share some videos if we have the time. The kids, they just go across campus, interview people. What do you think is one stereotype against women in society? And that person, opens up very excitedly. Now, I wanted to tell them about the dangerous impact of stereotypes on society. So this kid learns stereotypes, what is a stigma, or what are so-called silences in society. Using this method, she connects with others and she is able to generate for herself what a stereotype really is based on all these inputs that she has got. What we call in the past Web 1.0, that means it is one way. The websites that we had in the 1990s when I was a PG student, we used to go there. The websites, they were just one way. You can't interact with anyone there. You can't comment there. You can't give your feedback there. Whatever was given, you had to take it. Next came, after 2000 came, Web 2.0. That is when Literature 2.0 was also born. Web 2.0 told us that a text becomes interactive. YouTube channel you have, there is a comment section. Instagram, you have a reel, there is a comment section. So it becomes 2.0. That means, two-way communication happens. The same happens to Facebook or other social media after 2000 when it became 2.0. But today we are in the era of Web 3.0 and Web 3 Literature 3.0, where we generate meaning. We'll go into that next. Right. Interaction between devices, users, and services is possible without a centralized authority's approval. This makes the teacher more effective in the classroom. For example, in some texts, you will have representations that are not proper. For example, for a local product, you will have an American or a white person being advertised. So in such cases, the teacher gets empowered. We can remove such stereotypes by using our own visual media or representations to make it more inclusive for the learner based on our cultural value systems. You don't need a centralized authority's approval. Here you need a centralized authority. Only this you can teach in class, but here it is not needed. It uses machine learning and AI. It gives users a choice to interact in public or in private without exposing them to dangers through a third party providing trustless data. The participative social web, we call it. You are also a co-creator or co-generator of the meaning of the text. That is what Web 3.0 is all about. Literature 3.0 is also about that. We'll see a very good example shortly. This will enable the intelligent creation and distribution of highly tailored content to every internet user. Yes. The last line there, I'll highlight that alone. The consumer or the reader also becomes the co-creator of meaning. So last week in one of my second MA classes, I had an interaction. Fridays, usually Fridays, what we do is we have a discussion time. It's a debate or a discussion time. So what I do is I post 5 topics on the WhatsApp page, the group of the students, and then I ask them to choose. They will vote. The highest votes, whatever topic receives, we'll have it or debate for that particular hour. Fridays, if it's the last hour, we'll use it for debate so that the students, their mood is also, participatory in nature. So what I did was we had a discussion in class that day. In that discussion, we had a question. What do you think? It was on feminism. So the question and agency in feminism. We know what is agency, a person's ability to act autonomously. So this was the question. The boys and the girls were on either side. And so first I asked the boys, what really do you think a woman, right, expects in society from a man? Then they said, sir, they need money. Someone said they need love. Sir, many said varieties of things they said. Then I said, okay, let's go to the girls now. Let me ask them, what exactly do they expect from a man? The first point was from a girl called Brinda. She said, so the first thing that I need as a girl or woman is security, she said. The men were surprised. They didn't expect this. Then I told them, look at this. You gave a different perspective to meaning here. What a woman needs. You are just representing a woman. Agency means making the woman talk for herself what she really needs. No, they were shocked. They said, I thought she needed wealth or money or fame or popularity. But she said, no, first thing I expect is, he should make me secure. He should make me comfortable, sir. And this is what we mean by the term co-creator of meaning. In literature 3.0, it is not one-way traffic that we find in the old devices, but you and I and we, all of us become co-creators of meaning in the text. So these kinds of representation that we find in the text, for example, where a family tour, this is an original advertisement, where not Indians, but someone else from elsewhere is given for that advertisement. See, when people from who are not from India represent India in such advertisements, that means there is no inclusivity in that. Representation suffers. In such cases, multimodality helps you to connect. So in the past, we had issues with such representations where the woman was represented as being in the kitchen. In nursery, primary schools, the father was represented as in the sitting room reading the newspaper, proverbial, reading the newspaper, and the woman was seen in the kitchen. And beauty means fair. You must have seen that controversial book from a particular state where a girl who was dark was called ugly, a girl who was fair was called beautiful. Who do you think is beautiful? Who is ugly? Tick mark. This was the question given to them. So the dark girl was called ugly. Such kinds of representations can be removed in the multimodal classroom, where you can use as a teacher. That's why they say, the teacher also gets empowered in the process. So this is an example that I took from Facebook. Reader response in multimodal discourse. How reader response, you and I become co-creators of meaning. Like I said in the class discussion that we had, this is a particular visual text. And look at the various responses that we get for this particular text. This is a very old version of the Tinaga. The Anbaragan Palakad, all those particular places are there, that very popular area in Tinaga. Now look at the responses here. One response, right? What we call literature 3.0. Two rival party juice shops at corners, Anbaragan fruit shop and Muthu fruit shop, still exist. Now the next person says, one doesn't exist. Muthu doesn't exist anymore. Then another person says, I heard they are brothers, but supporting rival parties. Is it true? Now the text is there, but the text is floating. In the multimodal platform, in multimodal discourse, the text is not static. It becomes non-linear. Anyone at any point of time can add meaning to the text, enhance the meaning of the text, something that Derrida tells us, meaning is not fixed to a text. The more the meanings, the more its aura gets enhanced. Now look at that. Looks like 1980 to 85, number 13, Pallavan. Those days we had Pallavan, no? So Pallavan Transport Corporation. Then you have another person saying here, yeah, it is 1978 to 79 itself. One person said 80s, other person exactly fixes it. 78 to 79 itself, as the PTC that time overnight changed the prototype of T Nagar, Mandaveli, Ambattur, Thandayarpet depots, old Leyland Tata buses to olive green. So he has an observation there, Balasubramanian. Then excellent, sir. Thank you. The person says our public transport is very dependable. Bus 13, T Nagar to Triplicane. He gives us another viewpoint there. Yes. Till the end of the 1990s, that street was slushy. Anbalagan fruit stop is still there. Next to Anbalagan, we could see Gomadi Shankar written in the next shop. That also exists. Gomadi Shankar sweet shop. Bus number is 11. That's a Tata make, my childhood memories. See how In Literature 3.0, everyone gets the chance to create. And what a day to post it. Tonight, you can see a bit of tar on the road. Early 1980s, one person says. Till the end of the 1990s, that street was, yes. So this is the byline there. Multimodality is liberative. Why is it liberative? Because it frees us from the cloistered structure of the old medium where we are bound by the premises of space. But here, you are unrestricted as far as bounds are concerned. So since multimodality involves participative social web, teachers and learners are able to generate and foreground content and knowledge from their own points of view. Sometimes we'll have a centralized point of view that may not connect, like T.S. Eliot gives us in 1919, no? That famous critical essay, Tradition and the Individual Talent, where he says, there is something called tradition, there's something called individual talent, and he always says, no, there is culture, which is the domain of the privileged few. They are the ones who dictate culture. But Raymond Williams, 1954, comes up and says, culture is not for the elite. It is ordinary. It is participatory. Amma gives you culture when she tells you, do this way. Appa gives you culture at home. Parents give you culture. Grandma gives you culture. For culture, you need not go to London, he says. Raymond Williams says. For culture, you need not go to London to learn culture. Culture is where you are, what you practice. In that sense, multimodality is highly liberated because it makes us tune ourselves to the needs of the learners, to the demands of the learners, rather than give a monopolic view of the text to them. So, family, global and international textbooks tend to idealize and naturalize particular representations of the family. We all know that. The word family itself globally means a husband, a wife, and children. In Indian context, a family for us is an extended family. So it is not a nuclear family, it is an extended family. But for them, the family usually means an idealized prototype of the husband, wife, and children. So these versions are naturalized, he says. The textbooks idealize and naturalize these representations of the traditional family, so-called traditional family. But in the multimodal scenario, we have the power to change such perspectives when we are faced with an international textbook or whatever of that sort in schools or in colleges. We can make it suited to the Indian need and the Indian context, where the word family could possibly mean not only, sometimes it need not mean father and mother also, because there are a whole lot of divorced people, innocent divorcees and others out there. So family, the representation of the word family could mean anything to any number of people, as Derrida says. It's free floating. And it could involve grandparents also. It could involve dogs also. It could involve kitten also. So the word family for us is an interconnected ambience, or we call it an interconnected consciousness. What J. Krishnamurti would call, right, seeing me in everything around me. Right? Seeing me in everything around me, that interconnectedness. Sometimes when we have these idealized versions of the word community, for example, when we are given the word community as representing a particular caste or a particular people, what about animals? There is a hierarchy, here. When I represent community in a particular way and I say this is community, it involves only a group of people. So what about animals? What about trees? What about birds, flora and the fauna? That means I have not been inclusive in my usage of the word community or family or human beings. When I represent human beings as only men and women, I'm doing injustice to the other so-called gender liberative strategies that we have, that Judith Butler talks about in a 1990 book, Gender Trouble, the performative. So multimodality in that sense is liberative because I'll just give you a simple example. I have a rose with me. I'll close this for a while. Yes. Now this is a rose. This is from my own garden. I took it from my own garden this morning. So the roses were not in full bloom today because of the rains. So today we didn't have any rose blooming, but I took this. So this is a rose. The rose flower here is the form, right? The rose flower here is the form. Now the form gets a particular meaning. We all know the rose, because of a lack of time, we can't have interactions here now. But the word rose connotes and denotes a whole lot of things, right? Rose denotes love. Next month, Valentine's Day is coming. All the youngsters will rush to the rose shop to buy roses for their lovers. So the word rose connotes or stands for, represents, especially red rose, it stands for love, or it stands for passion, or it stands for affection, or it stands for sacrifice. Nightingale in the Rose by Oscar Wilde, that short story tells us how a white rose was turned into a red rose by the blood oozing from the heart of a bird, the nightingale, just because a guy was told by his lady love that if he brings her a red rose, she will love him. So a rose is the form. The form has some meaning. Now, the form fuses with the meaning. I repeat, the form fuses with the meaning. The question is, who gives the meaning to this form? Who gives the meaning to this particular form? Is it, just imagine if this is a girl also. Who gives meaning to this particular girl? A whole lot of meanings, patriarchal meanings that we give to a woman. Serum, the proverbs that we have also. Serum Pambe Nambu, Sirikum Penne Nambade. Then we have stratified layers also for the woman. All abusive words, only focusing on the woman. So the form, who gives the meaning? Usually, prescriptive texts that give us the meaning. Go back. Prescriptive texts that give us the meaning for a particular form are monopolistic in the sense they don't serve the true value of literature. The true value of literature, as we all know, literature, they say, is transformative. A poem is transformative. A play transforms us for the better, isn't it? Yesterday, I didn't read this particular book. Today, I read this book. I was transformed. Yesterday, I didn't know about this book. Today, I know about this book. And literature is transformative, they say. And theory, they say, is liberated. Multimodality is a theory that is liberated. And they say research is there to make a difference. So the liberative part comes only through this inclusivity that you find in multimodality. Some naturalized, idealized conceptions of the form can be done away with by the representations, by the meanings that we endow through the multimodal platform. We have seen this in umpteen cases, especially in our context, where representations are always given from elsewhere, not from the Indian context. And that is why the urgent need for revitalizing the form, not through stereotyped meanings that are attached to them, but by having a relook at the meanings, then engaging with the form in a better way, right? So while the last point there, white heterosexual middle and upper class members of the family are depicted in everyday situations, or in better terms, what can be understood to be everyday situations for particular situations, segments of society. We all know that only the so-called upper class or middle class or heterosexuals are used for depictions in everyday situations. In how many advertisements you find a transgender being used for an advertisement for a product? Ideal family will be there. Soaps will be there, where someone comes up. Ujala will be there. Whitening effect will be there. But who represents the house or who represents the home? Idealized representations are there. Let's also remember the English that we have today. That is the standard British English, we call it. No, the British Council in Mount Road, Chennai, they advocate. It's not an idealized English. It was just a butler English that the merchants in England spoke. The merchants popularized a variety of English, and the merchants were all across England. So they popularized an accent which became very popular. And so the royalty also embraced this accent. So the merchant English became the standard British dialect. And today we practice it. The pronunciation, the spelling, the intonation, the stress, everything that we have derived, imbibed, is basically from this particular variety of English that the merchant class in the UK, they practiced. So that is supposed to be an idealized, but the English that we need for our context is different. Words that we don't use at all in our regular parlance. We have imbibed from them and we still use it today. But we have our own words in our own context, isn't it? A whole lot of words, especially the word love marriage, that the Westerners won't know, arranged marriage. We have different words. We have different perspectives on life. We don't say, all the time, we don't say hi or good morning. We say namaskar or namaskaram or vanakkam. Our perspectives, our food habits, our way. I recently saw this movie Annapurani where Nayandara tells the French president, the food will be better if you eat with your hands. Contextualizing multimodality. That is why it is called, liberative, right? Yeah. So we all know how hegemonic representations, dictatorial representations happen in society. Particular worldviews are given as the ideal ones. Particular lifestyles are promoted as the ideal ones. Social practices. And they sometimes foregrounding these ideal practices, they background and even exclude other practices. So hegemonic representations can be done away with using multimodal strategies where we have the power and the tools at our disposal to do. For example, look at these idealized representations that you find in the regular traditional text. A teacher obviously has to be of a particular gender. A policeman, obviously, that's why it's called a policeman. Right? You never use the word policewoman, no? So a policeman obviously has to be of a particular gender. Milkman, mailman, salesman, waitress, the typist, elevate. So these hegemonic representations that are shown in the regular textbook, the one reason why there exists a hierarchy or a binary in society, we all know, is because of these hegemonic representations. These hegemonic representations, by hegemonic I mean hierarchic representations, dominating ideologies, what Raymond Williams would call dominant ideologies or dominant culture. So there is a dominant culture that gives you a hegemonic representation, which is called the ideal. And how? So this is the conclusion part. Multimodal literacy, how it helps in engaging the student in tune with the currently changing times, with a healthy respect for the past, present, and future literacies. I have this beautiful line that we all know: tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. The multimodal platform gives us a chance, an opportunity to involve the learner in the learning process by which we can make the learning process better and engaged for the student. So thank you. If there are any questions, discussion, we'll continue with that.
Participants, anybody have any queries? So could you please share this PPT with us so that it will benefit our participants?
Oh, yes, sure, ma'am. How do I share it? Shall I share it with you or?
Me or Jayashree ma'am,
Yes,
via
yes, yes.
email, yeah.
Yes, I'll do it by mail.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Shipra Gupta says, nice presentation. It was indeed a wonderful session, actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Is there any new perspective that any of you would like to add so that, that also adds to the meaning of the session?
Thank you. Thank you all for your
Yeah,
comments.
if there are no questions, I think we can wind up. Thank you so much, sir. It was a very nice session, actually.
Thank you,
Generally, for the online sessions, we tend to get distracted and deviated, but then this was too much captivating and engaging. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
I'm sure all the participants agree to my comment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes, it was nice talking with you.
This is for the participants. I'm sharing the feedback link with you. Please fill in and you can save the whatever because it contains questions for both the sessions. So maybe you can save the Google form and finish filling it by the end of the second session. I'm sharing the link with you. Yeah, I've shared the attendance form with you right now. You can fill it in. And also, if there are any questions, we really welcome questions from you so that, we can have some engaging discussions. Harida, Harilal, Mutleka ma'am, Shivagami ma'am, everyone joins in thanking you, sir.
Thank
You would
you.
also
Thank
have
you
to
so
have some questions. If there are, okay. We have a question from Rohini. Rohini asks, hi, sir. Apart from multimodal learning and teaching, what do you think about learners' ability to self-learn concepts?
Yes, self-learn concepts is there. That's also they can learn of themselves, but we are just facilitators in the process. We should remember that. And unless they are given the proper concepts, they can't because everything is there on the internet. But unless you give them the proper concepts and the order, just the order would do. The structure would do. In YouTube, if you go, there is everything on structuralism. But is there a particular structure to learn structuralism? That is the only thing the learner needs today. So if you can give them the concepts and the order in which they could acquire the meaning, that will be better because they know the concepts. But an order or a structure to help them learn it, this is the way you should learn it. That's it. So we just become facilitators in enhancing the process by giving them a proper structure. For example, literary theory or critical theory. Everything is there on the World Wide Web. Almost many institutes and IITs have started offering it. But how do I exactly come to terms with critical theory or literary theory? There is a proper structure to help us connect with theory, how it all started. So if I could give them this and then the concepts will automatically go into them. Like preparing for any, administrative civil services exams or UGC net, you give them the structure, it becomes easier for them to properly engage with the process. Good question. Thank you. Because in this digital era, content is there and the concepts are there. But as a teacher, it becomes a responsibility to give them a proper format. That's it, right? An order, a logical, cohesive order to make them come to terms. This follows this, this follows like that.
Good morning, sir.
Yes.
This is Mutulekha from Sona College of Technology.
Yes,
Actually, it's really an interesting session, sir. It's quite relevant concept nowadays. I heard about you earlier, but today only I have attended your session.
Thank you.
It's really wonderful to us, sir. It's really
Thank you
an
so
intellectual feast to us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Anuja says, sir, regarding the textuality and teaching learning methods, the challenge that a teacher faces will be to update ourselves with the ongoing so-called technology migration, as you mentioned.
Yes, technology migration. Yes, like from we are digital migrants now. We have to become, natives. For that, we need to upgrade ourselves. And there are a whole lot of conferences happening. I went all the way to Mumbai, Pune, I think. Yes, where the first conference on digital humanities was offered 5 years ago, 7 years ago, and I took notes. It was something new then. So it becomes imperative on our part. Yes, that's true, very true, man, to upgrade ourselves or update ourselves just for the sake of our learners so that they will feel involved and included in the process. So yes, we need to update ourselves. And uh, I don't want to be very specific, but there are many institutes, professional bodies that are catering to this demand today. So you can also connect to them. They will be glad to offer such these technologies needed for upgrading ourselves. Thank you, ma'am.
Rohini has one more question. She asks, what are your thoughts about digi-verbal classroom? Segregating the class hours into digital dependent and letting the learners deduce the concept on their own.
Very good question, ma'am. Actually, it depends on the ratio that you are planning to allot to the digi and the next to the verbal. If the proportion has to be like in blended learning, they say 40-60. So make it 10% or 20%. Only then the mind, the creativity of the student will flourish. So make it just 5%. Just then go into interaction, the verbal part of it. So the ratio is important. Sometimes we are so captured by the digital that we forget this part. So, make it 10 or 20 is to 80 or 30 is to 70, not more than that. That proportion is also important. So that, the lesser of the digi, the more of the verbal, there will be more involvement in the classroom. Good question. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have the time, otherwise I'll give you a live example. When we went to Elephanta Caves in Mumbai, some 8 of us we went, we decided not to use our cell phones from morning 6 till evening 6. We thought we'll just discuss the Shiva temple there. There's a whole lot of statues there and beautiful surroundings there. So we resolved to ourselves that we will not use any digital devices there. The discussion that came, only 3 of us there were teachers. The others, they spoke like teachers when they felt the statues and the Elephanta Caves there. So I could feel there was an enhanced engagement with the text just by interaction, 1 or 2 glimpses, and then we interact. It sparked a lot of interesting discussion amongst us also. Sometimes discussions can follow when we keep it to the minimal and start on the interactions. Thank you, ma'am. I was told that the session will automatically stop at 11:30.
Yeah. At 11:30, it automatically gets disconnected.
So
Thank you everyone for joining. Rohini also asks, not using gadgets surely gives us the authority.
That's right.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, sir, once again for this wonderful session.
Excuse
Thank you
me?
so much. Looking forward to meeting you again.
Thank you.
Uh,
Ma'am. Thank
I
you
think
so
there
much.
was somebody.
Hasina ma'am, do we have to fill the feedback form now itself, or do we have to complete it after the second session?
I've shared the link with you. I'll also share it again in the second session also.
No,
If
do
you
we
want,
have
we
to
can.
share it? Do we have to complete it now itself, the first
No,
session?
nothing, ma'am. Nothing like that.
Okay.
We can do it in the second session also.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. Meet you again at 1:30. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.